Fantastic. Well, welcome for today's employer briefing with the State of Maryland Department of Management and Budget with four Trachtenberg School alumni, and you are here to hear from them. So I'm going to turn it over to hear more about their program.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you all for joining us today. Like Denise said, we are really, really proud to have several Trachtenberg alum and GW alum in general in our office. I myself am a double GW alum. I will let my colleagues introduce themselves, but yes, thank you for joining us. We are with the Office of Budget Analysis within the State of Maryland's Department of Budget and Management. So today you'll hear a little bit about our work and the exciting opportunities we have available in our office throughout this year's recruitment cycle. But just to illustrate to you all kind of the different roles and opportunities for growth that exist within OBA, each of us will introduce ourselves first. So my name is Rebecca Bizzari. I joined OBA about 5 years ago now. I started as an analyst. And I am now a supervising budget examiner, which means I manage a team of analysts within our office in a particular policy portfolio. Some of my agencies now include the Departments of Housing and Community Development, as well as the Department of Human Services. But during my time as an analyst, I primarily focused on health policy. So just to show you kind of some of the ways that you can evolve within the role and explore different policy areas. I will pass it over to Christina to introduce herself next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina. I've been with OBA since 2019. I'm a principal operating budget analyst at this point, and my larger agencies include the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, so the state prisons, and then the Attorney General's office, which is a constitutional officer, so kind of a little bit of a different vibe. And yeah, I'll kick it over to Kylia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kylia Gaynor. I am a senior budget analyst at the Department of Budget and Management. I focus primarily on health items, and I'll kick it over to Skylar.
Hey, my name's Skylar Knight. I actually started here last July. I'm a refugee from USAID and the federal government. This time last year, Denise and Rebecca were the ones who helped me find my new home with DBM. So happy to be here. And I'm on the health team. I work with Kylia, and my focus is on like Department of Disabilities, Department of Health, Office of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, and then Department of Aging, and a few economic things related to the Treasurer's Office and the Injured Workers Insurance Fund.
All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen to share our presentation. Okay, can everyone see this? Yeah. All right, I'll kick it over to Skylar to get us started.
All right, thanks, Kylia. So for those who don't know, the Maryland fiscal year starts on July 1st. So we're currently in the middle of FY26. We just proposed the governor's allowance for FY27 back in January. And then this fall, we'll be formulating the fiscal 28 budget. So at any different given time, we could be working on 3 different fiscal years. But starting chronologically from Q1, beginning of the fiscal year, most of July and August is spent with state agencies preparing their budget requests for the upcoming fiscal year. And during this time, we're providing a lot of technical support as analysts to our agencies. And then usually right around Labor Day weekend in September, agencies start submitting their budgets to our office, and that officially kicks off budget season and brings us to Q2. This is definitely our busiest and most important time of year. September, October, November are mostly spent polishing and analyzing budget submissions before presenting our analyses internally to DBM leadership. We then work with DBM leadership in the governor's office to finalize decisions in late November, early December, after which we begin the closing process. And throughout December and early January, the closing process means producing the budget books in the budget bill. That then brings us to Q3. So once the governor's allowance is finalized, It's submitted to the legislature around mid-January. So this year it fell, I think, right after MLK weekend. And this then kicks off a 90-day legislative session that we're currently in the middle of. And then during this period, we're monitoring bills for fiscal impact, working with our agencies to answer questions from the Department of Legislative Services, and attending budget hearings and doing write-ups for that. And then to wrap up the fiscal year in April, the budget bill is enacted and legislative session ends. We then produce target analyses and develop budget submission guidelines for the upcoming fiscal year or upcoming budget season. And then at the same time, agencies are closing their budgets before the current fiscal year ends on June 30th. So we can move to the next slide. So what do we as budget analysts and OBA do? I'm not going to read off this slide because it's kind of, a rehash of what's on the previous slide, but I do want to highlight like 5 things. And the first is that the biggest thing that we're going to be doing is analyzing agency budgets and making recommendations to the secretary of the department and the governor. And that is done with the goal of promoting more efficient and effective allocation of resources across the entire state. Number 2 is that we provide technical assistance to state agencies as they prepare and manage their budgets, and that's kind of a year-long process. The third thing is that we review agency performance data to inform our budget recommendations. We also assess proposed legislation for fiscal impact, as I mentioned, and then we incorporate the approved legislation into our target analyses. And then the fifth and final thing, which is one of the I'd say most fun parts of the job, is attending site visits with agency personnel. And that's usually done to discuss operational challenges affecting their budgets. And just to give you an example, my colleague in the office next to me, he has the Maryland Stadium Authority. So if you're a big sports fan, you love the Baltimore Orioles, he gets to go on site visits to Camden Yards. So that's pretty hard to beat. With that, I'll pass it off to, I believe, Christina to cover the next couple slides.
I mean, he gets to go to the Orioles, but does he get to go see prisons? I don't know. I'm just saying. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is to actually be a budget analyst in our job. I know that when I first heard about this job, and even still to this day, when I meet someone and they ask me what I do, like they're like, "Oh, so you're an accountant?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm not an accountant. That's not what we do here." I did an MPA at GW. I was not a math person. I will still kind of qualify. I'm not a math person. I think this job is very much relationship management, maintaining relationships, getting your agencies to trust you, like having a good relationship with them so you can actually understand what their needs are and you can communicate those needs up to management. Like, yes, of course, we have to analyze their requests. Some, depending on your agency, you have to do forecasting or, Rebecca had Medicaid. She has a forecast population. Like that is very specific to Medicaid. That's not every agency, but a lot of times agencies don't even fully know, like they know what they need, but they don't know how to say it. And so the more you work with your agency, you can help them, you can kind of help them communicate that if you think it's a legitimate request and a recommendation you want to make. So that is, I would say, a lot of our job, and just kind of like being a little bit of a crisis counselor for them, like when they're like in a situation with the legislature or maybe our management, like helping them navigate those problems and those situations. Like it is definitely a both sides of the brain job. We get to focus on specific policy areas, or you can kind of be more of a generalist. Rebecca was on the health team, Kylie and Skylar on the health team. That is very specific to health, but there are analysts who have, the Department of Labor and the Department of Emergency Management. They're very different, but it's one portfolio. So you can kind of tailor this to what you prefer. Some people want to do education only. Great. We need those people. Some people are more open and want to learn about other things. That's also a possibility. And I would say because of the nature of the work that we're doing, like working with the budget, it's kind of the only thing the Constitution says the legislature has to do. It is like the most important thing. You can't do anything without money. the people we are interacting with at these agencies are the highest level of the agency. We are working directly with the secretaries, with CFOs, with deputy secretaries, and then communicating all that information to our secretary, to our director, to our deputy secretary, to the governor's office, to the legislature. So we are working at the highest levels of state government, which gives our office quite a bit of influence and like power. We're kind of in the background, like no one knows we're here, but we do really get to have an impact. And I think that's like very significant. It makes it, you can see the impact of your work in our office. And like Skylar mentioned, like we encourage site visits during the off season so that you can get to know your agencies, fully understand the needs of your agencies, and see those things. And every agency is different. Public safety has facilities that I go visit the prisons. Aiden gets to go to the Orioles stadium. That's, whatever. That's fun too, I guess. But we actually get to see these things. And like when you see them in person, it's not just like numbers on an Excel spreadsheet or like a paragraph of like, yeah, we need money for critical maintenance. I get to see like, yes, the windows are broken, the ceilings are leaking. They need money for critical maintenance. We also really encourage attending conferences. The National Association of State Budget Officers, NASBO, that's a great conference. They do like they do conferences for intro budget analysts, like kind of understand how to analyze a budget. They'll do like policy specific area conferences. A few years back, the Medicaid analyst and I went to one because they were doing like a Medicaid corrections one. And it was really interesting to kind of just sit in and hear like other states have the same problems, and some are better at handling them and some are not handling them so great. Overtime and not enough correctional officers, like it's a nationwide thing. And I get to say that when I go sit in on a meeting and they ask me about vacancies, I can say like, well, I've heard them and explain what I've heard. So we do encourage that as well. Like we do want to have like a rounded person, not just like someone who's like plugging numbers in. You can go to the next slide, Kylie. I would say like one of the perks of working in Maryland, I came from another budget office and every state is different in how they do budgeting. Maryland does have a very strong executive. I don't want to like put a number on it, but I would say like the vast majority, like 80% of what we recommend and gets included in the governor's allowance is what goes into the final budget. At the end of the day, the legislature now has a little bit more power than they used to, and they make their own decisions, but a lot of what we propose goes forward. The state government is kind of the sweet spot between the federal government and the locals. I mean, now the federal government is not as stable as it used to be, and I think Maryland is very aware of that because we have a lot of people in the state that were federal employees or are federal employees, and we are trying to make this kind of more of a haven for people who maybe would have traditionally looked at the federal government like, hey, come look to the state. We have a great office culture here. We try really hard to make OBA fun and like engaging. I'd say we're younger in general than most of the state agencies. Our office like tends to have more younger people. We do have like more young families now, which is great because we have more people staying longer. I think this is like, we have like a group of people that have been here for a very long time now. It's kind of the first time in a while that we've seen that. And so that's like very great because it like helps build that culture. And we have happy hours and, we have like a good balance of like, we work remote, but also we come in twice a week. So we like have the opportunity where like everyone is here one day, we all get to hang out and have our meetings together in person, but then, you have your flow day and then you get your days at home. And I feel like we did a lot during COVID to kind of like make our work more remote accessible. And that was great. I think that was like a big turning point for our office. I'll say like our workflow and seasons it's the fall is challenging. That is something we will reiterate if you make it to the interview process. Like it's a very difficult time because it's a lot in a little amount of time. We have a constitutional deadline we need to finish by the X number, this day in January, and in order to be able to print our budget books. But then we kind of like have an ebb and flow. Like early session is kind of busy, but now it kind of like slows down. We wait for the budget to pass. Once the budget passes, it'll pick up, but then it slows down again. So we do have like a very intense season and then a little bit more downtime. So it makes that intense season more manageable, knowing like there's an endpoint here. And finally, Annapolis is just like a great city to work in. It's a great place to be. It's a super cute downtown. You're close to DC, you're close to Baltimore. You have like a lot of the federal government exposure. We do have the opportunity to kind of like deal with federal grants a lot, but being a little bit safer working as a state employee now. And yeah, it's a cute place to be. I can't recommend it enough. And I think that wraps me up, and I can turn it over to Kylia now.
Thanks, Christina. So at the Office of Budget Analysis, or under the Department of Budget and Management, anyways, we work for the executive branch, so we work for the governor. So in our work, we are looking to implement the more administration priorities. So even when we're making decisions and we're reviewing funding requests, we're keeping these priorities in mind. We have them all listed here. Some of those include ending child poverty, world-class health system, advancing infrastructure, connecting Marylanders to jobs. And so when we are making decisions, we are keeping those things in mind. And even when we are wrapping the governor's allowance to submit to the legislature, we go and we look and we're like, hey, which of these decision points that we included funding for, what does this connect to? What are we, how are we implementing this priority? Next, we created several new positions last year, so 5 additional positions, allowing us to expand our office structure and increase support at all levels. And I think everyone on this call can speak to how helpful that was, having more hands. Christina mentioned how we have a lot of work to do in a little bit of time. And so the more hands, the better, and made the work a little bit more sustainable for everyone. Our work is connected to the big news stories. So we get the bird's eye view of politics and government. So operating at the state level, it provides us an opportunity to make meaningful impact as we navigate significant federal changes. Often decisions that are made that come out in the local news and in the state news, since we're so close to DC, we're like, oh, that's something we worked on, or that's something we thought about, or we talked to the agency about. That happens pretty often. And then lastly, we have a flexible teleworking policy. So you can be fully in person, or you can telework up to 3 days. So 2 days in-person requirement in Annapolis. And then our in-person days are designed to overlap, fostering collaboration and team engagement. So we do this by having team meetings on those days and happy hours and different events, team lunches, things like that. And then lastly, I'll wrap. So we have a couple of minutes for questions. The application process. So we have multiple budget analyst openings this year, and we hire from budget analyst level 1 to level 3, a senior budget analyst, with a salary between $75,000 roughly to $113,000. Most applicants are hired at budget analyst 1, especially coming straight out of graduate school, unless they have prior experience directly related to the job. The application is going to be released online, and we will share that information with Denise so she can share it all with you when it is live. It's not currently live. We're aiming to have it open from the next week or so to the end of March. A little bit about our application process. So the first step is to complete a short budget exercise. And so you'll get that, and someone will reach out to you, give you the information. I guess kind of like a little test, anything that if you've taken budget analysis or the budgeting course at GW, you are well prepared to be able to answer the questions and do well. So you'll do that first. And then after that, you have 2 rounds of interviews. One is a panel interview, usually with a couple of analysts and someone from the management team. And then lastly, you have an interview with the executive director. And we have start dates. Lastly, we have start dates that are flexible to accommodate different graduation dates or travel after graduation, which frequently happens. often analysts usually start anywhere from late June to maybe late July, early August, the latest, just so we have all analysts in the office to undergo training for a couple of months before we hit the ground running in September, mid-September, to get into budget season. All right, and that's it for our presentation. We have our emails and information listed in the top right-hand corner. We sent a copy of this to Denise, so she will probably share that out with you all. And I'll open the floor for any questions. Thank you all.
As I mentioned in the chat, feel free to raise your hand or to put a question in the chat. This is your chance to ask any and all questions, make a connection, figure out how to be the strongest applicant possible. Can't believe there's no questions. Yeah, I see Mary raising her hand. Great.
Hi, thank
And
you so
Mike.
much for your time today and such a nice presentation, giving us such a great overview of what you do and how the state of Maryland works. I'm a Marylander myself, so appreciate your work just from that perspective also. And I guess it was very helpful to hear about what you do day to day. And are there particular skills that you're looking out for in your applicant pools that you think are really essential to your work? Or if you could say a bit more about that, that would be great to hear more. Thank
I'm
you.
happy to chime in on this one. And thank you for your thoughtful question. Like Christina talked about, I think so often with the budget analyst role, people really stress about showing their skills related to like your hard knowledge or like your mathematical knowledge, your Excel knowledge. And while all of that is helpful, and we do love when you highlight like maybe particular projects or things that you did during your time at Trattenberg or in past work experiences, being able to speak to your initiative, your follow through skills, how you've managed conflict or like difficult relationships within previous work experiences, or even within your capstone or different projects you do. I know in Trattenberg you do a million group projects. Those sorts of skills, those interpersonal skills, the way that you can highlight those and how you take initiative and ownership are really really things that stand out to us when we are sitting in on interviews. And in particular, that ownership piece, like if you can talk about how you took a project from beginning to end, or maybe within the Trattenberg context, like originating your capstone and then seeing it through to the end within a group project, like managing expectations of client, working in collaboration with other people, that's really applicable to the work that we do here in terms of each of the analysts are owners of their relationship with their particular agencies. Like we do have safeguards to support you and you have levels of supervision. But we want you to become experts, subject matter experts. And we want you to be able to take initiative to really own and take pride in your work. So if you can emphasize how you've done that in previous experiences, it goes a long way with us.
I'll also just add that is very important. We look at that. We also want to see how you manage your time, because there's a lot of competing priorities in the fall, and they can all seem equally important, or deadlines that are very back to back, and just kind of you learn too with experience on the job, but just also kind of like, how do you manage that when you have a deadline this week, a deadline next week, a deadline the week after, and then you're getting emails of like office-wide things that also have to be done on top of your own work that you're doing. So being able to speak to that, how you handle stress, or like pressure to get things done, is also something we ask about.
Thanks.
And I would reiterate to this, please work with our team to tell, you can tell that story on your resume too. So make sure you're working with us to tell that story, even just on the resume alone, not even the cover letter. Mike.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming here and presenting to us today. It's been great hearing about your work and about the office. This is sort of, Mary asked something that was sort of in the ballpark of what I wanted to ask, but in addition, Christina, especially, I heard that you were an MPA at Trachtenberg. If you could speak a little more about how you sort of found your niche in the office or in this sort of field, having not coming from that super quantitative background. And if anyone else is in the same bucket, I'd love to hear about it too, and sort of how to make the best of that skill set in this kind of work and how to sort of make the best of sort of a candidacy as an MPA.
Um, so I was working at a nonprofit doing communications and I was at GW and I knew I absolutely did not want to do that anymore. And I was applying to different jobs everywhere. I was open to moving. And I knew someone in the governor's office in Arizona, and they were like, listen, like if you're open, like they're always looking for budget people. And I was like very nervous because I'm being honest, like I would not ever say that I'm a math person. And I at that time, like my full experience of math was like the Trachtenberg MPA, like stats, econ, budget, like that was the top level of my knowledge. But I was willing to go give it a shot and see how it went. And when I got in there, I had a very general portfolio, like constitutional officers and the courts, the judiciary. And I just like ended up realizing that I could lean into more of what I felt like were my skills that I'm good at is like that agency management, relationship management, like understanding what the agency needs and then like communicating that. And I could learn Excel. I could learn how to do the math that we need to do. I can learn how to forecast. And being in this job so long now, like now I know exactly what I need to do. We do like little Excel trainings, like we're very close office. So like if I know Rebecca's great at forecasting, I can go be like, Rebecca, show me how you did like your Medicaid workbooks. Like, and that's like something that we are like very helpful, especially in the off season. So like I just kind of realized like I can learn all the skills. Like we will teach you what you need to know to do this job. The things that you need to like kind of have inherent are like the people skills that Rebecca talked about, those like soft skills, and then being able to like time manage is super important. How do you work independently and in a team? I know that's kind of generic, but like it is important to be able to we are a small office. Like one person kind of not carrying their weight impacts a lot of people because we have a deadline, we have to get it done. So I think like those kind of like Trachtenberg is really great at giving those skills because you do so many team projects and you have your own individual component, but then you have your team component. There's a lot of presenting at Trachtenberg, which I think is amazing that they make people like present in front of a class because we have to go present in front of our secretaries. We have to go present to our agencies. Like we have to do a lot of communicating. So I would say like if that's like a strength that you feel you have, you can learn all the other stuff. Like you can learn the math that you need to do here. And it'll be again agency specific and dependent on like how much of that math you're doing. I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in.
I'll also just add on the one, I think 3 out of the 4 of us on this call alone are MPAs. So we have a lot of MPAs in our office. You are not at a disadvantage at all. We still love Kylia, even though she's our one MPP on this call. But I think, at least when I was in Trachtenberg, you all had concentrations or fields of study. You can lean into that when thinking about like if you have a particular policy interest that you would be interested in exploring, you should express that in your cover letter and in your interviews. But if you're open, if you're like Christina, when you're like, I know that I have some skills that would be great for this job, but I'm a blank slate, I'd be open to see different areas of the state, share that. We love that. At the end of the day, we do try to match people with their interests, but there are only so many agencies and so many people. And so as an analyst first coming in, you might first be assigned to assignments that are like not your bread and butter. Maybe you don't have experience with it before, but you will have opportunity over time to shift assignments. I know when I started, I had like the military department and state police, which I was willing to do, but it was not my personal passion area. I wanted to do health policy. And so I just made that known very early on. In our office, we want great people to stay in state government. That is like our number one goal. And so if there are things that are important to you for your growth or professional development, whether that be getting involved in various statewide activities or moving to a specific sort of policy area, share those. Nobody's going to be like, oh, you're too big for your britches. We want to know those things because ultimately people are going to develop better work if they're working on things that they want to be working on.
Thanks so much, both of you. And thanks again, everyone, for coming today.
Well, we are at time, so I want to see if there's any last burning question. We are happy to take it, but as we know, these are all Trachtenberg alumni, so if people have further questions, they can also follow up. And barring none, is there any last comments from all of you before we wrap up for today, besides apply?
Nope.
Fantastic.
Same time.
Thank you so much all for coming. We appreciate the turnout always.
This is really wonderful. Thank you so much. We look forward to continuing to work with all of you. As I mentioned in the chat, please come and see us. Come and see us before the application comes out so we can begin to work with you. Advising drop-in hours, we are here to support you in your career. And for all of our alumni that are here today, as a reminder, as an alumni, you get career services for life. So we hope you are staying there a long time, but if any times ever come that you're looking for anything, we are always here for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank
Thank